Welcome to the MLB Slate Breakdown. I'm Jason Gilbo. With me is Brent Hyden. Taking a look at tonight's 7-game slate over on DraftKings and FanDuel. Coming off a pretty crazy slate. A ton of strikeouts. Mookie Betts hitting 3 homers. The Indians finally getting a little bit going. A couple homers there. Not an enticing slate to follow, though.
No, it really isn't. I missed out on the excitement of Mookie Betts and Ohtani leaving with the blister and all that stuff because I went to bed at like 9 o'clock last night. So I missed out on all that fun. I'm not terribly worried about missing out on a lot of fun with this slate because you and I were talking about it beforehand, and there's no pitcher that I feel 100% confident in, and there's also no stack that I feel 100% confident in on tonight's slate.
Yeah, I mean, majority of games are the West Coast games. You got the game down in Puerto Rico, like some kind of mid-range arms. Like there's no real cheap guy to use if you're looking to really stack bats. Like you probably end up paying up here.
Yeah, you probably are, and all these guys that you're paying up for, with exception of maybe like Garrett Cole, are like in questionable spots.
Yeah, because like both these two pitchers here in the first game, Carlos Carrasco, Jose Barrios. If you didn't catch yesterday, they're down in Puerto Rico. I don't mind Carrasco. I'm a little worried because the strikeouts really haven't been there to start the year, but I don't mind him. Had some success against Minnesota last year. This still is a Minnesota team that is striking out a ton. I probably won't touch him in cash games, but I don't mind him in GPPs.
I don't mind him in tournaments. As you mentioned, this Twins team does strike out a decent amount. They're about 25% so far this season, but they still do have a decent amount of power. And this is a guy in Carlos Carrasco who at times tends to struggle. Like he has those outings where he goes out and he just dominates, and then he has these outings where he shows up to the stadium and he just pitches like complete garbage. We saw him struggle against the Mariners and against the Royals so far this season. He gave up 7 earned runs in those 2 games combined, and then he came out against Detroit and pitched a gem, which it's against Detroit, so it doesn't really take that much to do that. But I have some concerns against this Twins team that does have some power, but at the same time, like I think he can come out and put up a decent outing.
Yeah, I do too. But like you said, I mean, the blow concern is there. You may not think with Carrasco, but I mean, last year, 7 starts allowing 5 or more earned runs, and I probably rostered on all 7 of those starts because I remember vividly him just getting absolutely shelled at times last year.
Yeah, I think I had him on those times too, and I think a couple of them were because like Rajai Davis dropped like routine fly balls in the outfield, and like that ruined his starts. So I will issue him a pass whenever you have Rajai Davis out there making boneheaded moves.
Any Twins bats that you're interested in here?
I don't mind a stack of like Eddie Rosario, who continues to be a decent hitter. You could even mix in like Kepler, Sano, like some of these power guys that could put up solid outings. Joe Mauer, like I hate to even throw that name out there, but like the dude's been hitting extremely well this season and like continues to be really, really cheap. Like if you just look through his game logs, he hasn't posted a game in like 10 straight outings where he hasn't at least put some points on the board.
Yeah, I mean, solid cash game guy. Like I don't mind like a lefty stack for the Twins here, just because we have seen lefties get to Carrasco at times, and allows a 3.11 well, but dating back to last year. I'm much lesser on like the Doziers and Sanos. I think Mauer, Rosario. If you want to do a one-off of a struggling Logan Morrison, I'm not going to say no. But like Max Kepler, Eduardo Escobar are other lefties too.
And you might get Robbie Grossman in the lineup. I know he made it yesterday because Buxton was scratched. He'd be a cheap option that you can consider, but he's going to be like at the bottom of that lineup, and he's not a guy that hits right-handed pitching particularly well.
Oh. Other side of things here, Jose Barrios take on an Indians lineup with a handful of lefties. Barrios is a guy I'm having trouble with here. Like, I think he might be the odd man out for me. It wouldn't surprise me to see him have a great start tonight. Like, GPPs, if you really wanted to, like, I'm okay with it. But I think I'm just going to take shots elsewhere.
Yeah, the Indians' bats have started to heat up a little bit against right-handed pitching. They're still about 27th in the majors, because they haven't completely caught up to how bad they were to start the season. They're striking out about 24% of the time. a 66 WRC plus prior to last night's outing. If you wanted to roll Barrios out here, a dude with an immense strikeout potential, you can. Obviously, there is the hometown narrative. He is pitching about 20 minutes away from his hometown. We saw that play pretty well with Lindor yesterday, who, homered with the whole hometown narrative. You can call it narrative. You can call it, he was probably bound to homer against Jake Odorizzi. Either way, there is a hometown narrative for Barrios. So again, it's another situation where you're looking at him in tournaments, but not really in cash games.
Oh, yeah, it's either hometown narrative or it's just called math.
Yeah. One of the two, whichever one fits, whichever fits your personal narrative, you can go with.
Yeah. I don't mind the Cleveland lefties bats though. Here again, I don't mind going back to the well with like Lindor, Ramirez, Brantley. Alonso's interesting as well. A couple of those guys homered yesterday. Barrios obviously has been excellent this year, but I mean, still dating back to last season, 333 WOBA allowed to lefties, 32% hard contact rate. A little bit lower ground ball rate. So I don't hate the idea of stacking lefties because I don't know how many people will be looking to fully attack Barrios.
I don't think people will. And obviously you still have the hometown narrative for Lindor. So there you go. I don't mind a lefty stack again. This is a slate where you're probably just looking in tournaments because you're not entirely comfortable with just about anybody taking the mound. So like in tournaments, it's going to be a low on stack, except for Lindor. Like people are probably going to hop on board that train tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Washington, New York next year. Tanner Rourke taking on Steven Matz. I don't really have a ton of interest in either of these two pitchers. We're talking a little bit before the show about trying to find a cheap pitcher to like. I think Matz is probably that guy for me. The problem is he just doesn't go deep into games. He's a guy who does walk a lot of guys. But he's had some success against Washington. I mean, 1.85 ERA in 34 innings against Washington with 34 strikeout or 28 strikeouts. I don't hate the idea if like Rendon's out of the lineup again. This team is just not hitting the ball really well, especially against lefties right now. And I know there's obviously some right-handed bats, but I think there's some potential here for Matz to at least have a decent outing for the price.
Yeah, it kind of depends on the lineup that we get from the Nationals here. We obviously know that Matz is a low strikeout pitcher, 18.2% dating back to last season. This Nationals team, however, striking out 27% of the time against lefties. If Rendon is out of the lineup, we already know Brian Goodwin's out because he went to the DL. It's going to leave like Ryan Zimmerman as your current best hitter against left-handed pitching dating back to last season. And Ryan Zimmerman so far this season, 121 batting average. The dude is really, really, really cold. Like he's one of these guys that you're going to project for regression because he's hitting the ball extremely well, but they're like he's hitting it straight to people. So like it doesn't really matter. There is potential here. So if Rendon is out of the lineup, I don't mind rolling out Steven Matz as a value arm on this slate.
Oh, I don't either. He's definitely a two-pitcher site guy. Like I'm not going there on FanDuel at all. Yeah, I mean, projected lineup right now is with Rendon out. 335 WOBA, 168 ISO dating back to last year, 22.8% strikeout rate. So not numbers I'm exactly shying away from.
No, there's really no one that you're terribly concerned about in this lineup. Howie Kendrick is a decent hitter against lefties, but not a lot of power. You're going to get like probably Pedro Severino behind the dish, Bryce Harper, who is still obviously one of the best players in baseball, but numbers against lefties not terribly awesome. So not really a whole lot of people you're scared of in this lineup.
No, the only thing you got to worry about is just the Mets management getting to themselves.
Well, that and the bullpen blowing the wind.
Yeah. So you mentioned Kendrick. Like Kendrick is the guy I would have some interest in if I'm not playing Mats. You mentioned Zimmerman. Like yes, his numbers look great against lefties, but he's been bad to start the year. If you want to roll GPPs, I'm not going to say no, but those are probably the only two options. And if Rendon gets in the lineup, I don't mind getting some Rendon exposure.
Yeah, if he makes the lineup, I would potentially be looking there. But I'm pulling up Zimmerman's splits against lefties this season. It's only 12 at-bats, but 167 average. He has 2 walks and 4 strikeouts and 12 at-bats.
Yeah, the 4 strikeouts is concerning. Like, if he was just, like, getting unlucky and hitting the ball hard still, it would be whatever. But he does look completely off.
Yeah, he's just really lost at the plate so far this season.
Yeah. Other side of things here, I don't have any interest in Tanner Rourke against this Mets lineup that's hitting the ball well, especially with a lineup that's going to have 5-6 lefties in it.
Yeah, this would be a slate where I really wouldn't want to get any exposure to Rourke. You're going to get guys like Nimmo, Conforto, or potentially Nimmo in the lineup, Conforto, Jay Bruce, um, Asdrubal Cabrera. All these guys hit righties extremely well, and this Mets team as a whole hitting righties extremely well this season, rarely striking out. It's about 22% of the time. I would rather attack him in the spot and roll out some of those lefties that I talked about, Conforto, Nimmo, Bruce, whichever of those three gets in the lineup. I would feel free to stack them.
Yeah, I would too. Asdrubal Cabrera continues to be under 4K. He's working his way up, but he's still not there. So I'm just going back to Lalo Cabrera.
He's apparently just going to have to hit like 14 home runs before like they price him up.
He's got to pull a Mookie Betts, and then maybe he'll get to like 4,200.
Maybe.
I'm with you. Only the lefties here for me. I don't really have any interest in like Cespedes or Frazier just because Rourke isn't bad against righties, and it just has that high ground ball rate, induces a ton of soft contact too.
If it fits your stack, you can, but I think I don't necessarily think tonight's a night where you're going to need to stack like a four player stack of a team. Like I think you can do like lefties against this pitcher, righties against X guy, and so forth.
Yeah, I agree. Anyone else there?
Maybe some like Adrian Gonzalez or something like that for a cheap bat towards the like middle bottom half of that lineup.
Yeah, and if you want to punt, like Jose Lobaton is 2,200. Like I know because we've said some pay up options are going to be the way to go on the hill. So like highlighting some of these punt values isn't the worst in Lobaton 2,200. Like there's not a ton of great catching options outside of like Grandal.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Phillies Braves next here. Vince Velasquez taking on Brandon McCarthy. I don't really have any interest in either of these two pitchers. Do you?
If like the biggest concern I have with McCarthy is this is going to be what his first start since he like dislocated his shoulder. Yeah. And that was like a week ago, and he's already back out on the mound. I mean, it was his non-throwing shoulder, so obviously that's not as concerning, but still, I don't mind him as a cheap arm just because he does have a little bit of strikeout stuff. He's not a terrible pitcher. He's a better tweeter than he is pitcher, but this Phillies team continues to strike out a lot, continues to struggle at the plate. So, like, there is potential for him to come out and put up a solid outing if you're chasing a cheap pitcher on an SP2 site. And Velasquez is a guy, like, he's got a dangerous changeup, has potential, but again, it comes down to I'm not taking pitchers against the Braves.
Yeah, I'm not either. And like Velasquez, just the hard contact worries me. Two lefties, he has struggled against lefties. And once again, this is not a lineup that I'm really looking to attack with right-handers that have been really inconsistent. So I think I'm more inclined actually to stack the Braves here. I don't mind like Albies, Freeman, Preston Tucker. I'll probably use Inciarte or Markakis, I guess, would have to choose between the two. But I don't mind a Brave stack on this one.
Man, it's a rough slate when your decisions are coming down to Inciarte or Markakis. Neither one of these guys inspire a whole lot of confidence. I don't mind Markakis strictly because of where he's batting in the lineup, as opposed to Inciarte. But I do prefer like the Freemans and Tuckers and Ozzie Albies and even someone like Ryan Flaherty down towards the bottom of that lineup.
Yeah, I don't either. And like, good ballpark. Obviously that game last night was pretty low scoring. I think Freeman's a really intriguing one-off here. Same with Albies.
Yeah, because I like another first baseman a little bit more that we're going to get to later, I would probably lean Albies. And just glossing over like second base, there's not a whole lot to really like at the position.
No, there's not. Phillies bats, like you said, like McCarthy really isn't a bad arm. Like he doesn't show any real way that I'm looking to extremely attack him. Throws a wide variety of pitches, induces a fair amount of weak contact. There is definitely potential here for McCarthy to have, a decent start the more I look at it, and obviously after you mentioned it. But like still Hoskins has got to be in play here. I still think I'll look at like some of the value outfielders if they get into the lineup.
What about Carlos Santana?
No, I think I've overstayed my welcome.
Santana Island, the weather has turned sour on Santana Island. Yeah, I think I'm looking at the Hoskins and the Nick Williams and Santana, or out there, or Odubel, whichever of these outfielders gets in the lineup. Again, Santana, a guy continues to smoke the ball. It's just not paying off. So if you want to sprinkle in a one-off and just hope for the day that it finally pays off, feel free. Because then you can tweet out like you were on Santana the day like he finally broke out.
Yeah, this day in history. Like,
yes.
Anyone else here?
Nah.
San Francisco and Arizona next. Chris Stratton taking on Robbie Ray. Obviously, Patrick Corbin coming out throwing a complete game shutout, had that no going into the 8th. Did you see how that ended?
I was asleep.
Oh, that's right. Man, you just missed like world-changing events out there in the baseball world.
This is what happens when I go to bed early.
But belt check swing, they had the shift on dribbles down third base, and that's how the no-hitter goes.
Nice.
Awful. Any interest in Ray here tonight?
As an arm with a lot of strikeout potential, sure. It does worry me. Still a guy giving up a lot of hard contact to lefties, a lot of fly balls to righties. That really does concern me still, especially in this park. I don't know if the humidor was in effect last night or not. But I would still, he's still a guy that has a lot of potential. I mean, he was doing extremely well in that last outing, and then Andrew McCutchen probably ruined it because that's what McCutchen does.
Yeah, he does. I don't mind Ray. We haven't seen like a lot flash from him this year that I'm really excited about. This Giants team still though, like, you mentioned the hard contact rate, always a concern with Ray. Strikeout upside is there again. This Giants team still striking out quite a bit, especially against that off-speed stuff. And you obviously look at Ray, like you mentioned, our contact, but 39% strikeout rate against lefties going back to last year. Obviously, that bodes well for like the panic and Belts and Crawfords who don't really find themselves out of the lineup. Evan Longoria was scratched last night. Like, I know he's not a great lefty masher like he used to be, but that's still a right-handed bat that I would rather see instead of Sandoval in the lineup. So it could be a pretty watered down lineup outside of like Cutchin and Posey.
How dare you talk about Pablo like that?
The man's horrible. I suffered through the Red Sox years, the very glim Red Sox years of Sandoval.
Yeah, I'm having flashbacks to earlier in the season when Sandoval got in the lineup and he homered. It was like a total BVP homer. I was looking to see if Robbie Ray had any negative or had any BVP against Sandoval, and he does not. They've never actually faced each other apparently. So at least over the last 5 years. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. But I still think you can target this Giants offense. Like, obviously McCutchen, still a lot of power against lefties. Buster Posey, power against lefties. I don't even mind the left-handed hitters, like, because they could get to Robbie Ray here. So I think in tournaments, again, you can stack these guys.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind. I like Cutchin quite a bit. Like, he's the one-off guy that I'll be looking to go after. Posey as well. Like, yeah, I don't mind stacking Giants here just because it will be a contrarian spot. And obviously a park upgrade, even with that humidor, that still a mystery.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I still don't think people know quite what to expect out of that.
No. Arizona side of things here, I definitely don't mind them. Cueto came out and had a really strong night, 11 strikeouts, which surprised the hell out of me. But I don't mind Arizona here. Like, I like Goldschmidt and Pollock, and I will use some of the lefty value here because Stratton just isn't that good of an arm.
Yeah, Vegas has absolutely no respect for him in the spots. Diamondbacks projected at like 4.8 runs. They made it in my stacking article, and there's two guys that really stand out for me, and you're going to be shocked when you see these two names: Daniel Descalso and Alex Avila. If Descalso makes it in the lineup, his numbers against curveballs, which is a pitch that Stratton relies on heavily, 469 xWOBA and a 526 ISO against them last season. He also had a decent profile against forcing fastballs, which is another pitch that Stratton throws a decent amount, 250 ISO. Avila, a guy, 250 ISO against curveballs, 211 ISO against four seamers. If those two guys are in the lineup, I like them as value options. And then you mentioned the other guys. Like I like David Peralta in the spot. AJ Pollock, obviously Paul Goldschmidt is a good baseball player, so I don't mind those guys as stacking targets.
So you stacking 3 through 6 there?
Depends on what lineup they roll out, because who knows if Descalso. I hope Descalso is going to get in the lineup, but I would probably lean like 3 through 6, or maybe like 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 or something.
Yeah. So you're kind of skipping on like one of the two leadoff or one of the two front two guys, because what's projected is like Goldschmidt, Pollock, Descalso, Avila, 3 through 6.
Yeah, I might skip like the Ketel Marte, and like I said, David Peralta has struggled against curveballs, but he does have a 349 xWOB against four seamers. So I might actually skip like the two guys at the top and go like 3 through 6.
Yeah, because Peralta's a guy who's just going to hammer the ball on the ground. He drives me nuts. Put a little launch angle on it, for Christ's sake.
100-mile-an-hour ball right into the ground.
Yeah, I like those calls there, especially the deeper calls. I think people will kind of overlook a little bit.
Definitely Daniel Descalso, a guy people are not going to be jumping to put in their lineups.
Moving on here, Boston and LA. Rick Porcello taking on Tyler Skaggs. Red Sox just went off last night. Some of the bottom half guys at Mookie Betts. Getting a lefty here in Skaggs. Skaggs not a bad lefty, but there are a couple bats I have some interest in here.
Yeah, obviously, JD Martinez, guy with like video game numbers against lefties, still strikes out like 24% of the time, but a 485 ISO, 522 WOBA, 1.324 OPS. Those numbers are really good. So even if you're not like terribly excited about rostering Red Sox here, I think he's an excellent one-off bat. And you and I were talking about it prior to recording. Like, it is a little bit surprising that some of the best Red Sox bats against lefties are actual lefties. And that's a little counterintuitive, I think, for most people to consider rostering a bunch of lefties against a left-handed pitcher. But Devers, Brock Holt, Jackie Bradley Jr., all these guys hit lefties extremely well. And then you have, of course, Mookie Betts, who is a good baseball player.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're not getting lucky against lefties. Like, it's not a limited sample size, because like their WOBA matches up well with their expected WOBA for some of these guys. Like, Devers 441 WOBA off lefties dating back to last year, expected WOBA 414. Bradley 331, 343. Like, Hanley was the guy that was really unlucky against lefties last year. Still had a 188 ISO, 286 WOBA, but a 402 expected WOBA. Like, if you look at larger career sample size for Hanley, like, he is a guy that does mash lefties. The hard contact's there. Not a huge strikeout guy. I don't mind like stacking some of these bats like Hanley, JD, or Devers, or like Nunez and Bradley, and kind of going with a little bit of a back half, especially because Mookie will probably have a ton of ownership after last night.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, I don't mind Mookie in the spot. Like, you could do like a 1, 3, 4, 5 stack or something like that, or a 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 load up on Red Sox in the spot. I don't necessarily. Vegas is really low on the Red Sox, which is a little bit surprising. They have like 3.9 runs, which is kind of surprising. I don't mind stacking some of these guys and just hoping ownership isn't there.
Yeah, like I think the only guy that I'm off of from the top end is probably Benintendi. He should still be in the lineup just because I think they're going to value his defense more than hitting tonight.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I like the bats there. Angels bats here against Porcello. Porcello was super tilting last time out. It was fun as a fan to watch, but as someone who stacked against him because I have a brain, that was a little tilting. But I kind of like the Angels here. I look for a little bit of a response game too. Porcello's the guy who's still giving up a ton of hard contact, especially to right-handed bats too. So I'm still going to be attacking with Angels.
Yeah, I like the Angels here. They made it in my stacking article. Looking at his numbers dating back to last season against lefties, a lot of fly balls, 46.1%, almost 40% hard contact. Depending on which lefties get in the lineup, you can obviously look there. And then I profiled some of the hitters against his pitch mix in the stacking article, so I won't go too in depth in there. But obviously, Mike Trout, Ian Kinsler, Justin Upton, excellent options to consider. I like the Angels as a stack in the spot. I think anybody in that lineup is in play. Like I said, I think I prefer the lefties as like lower owned options like Calhoun and Valbuena, guys people aren't going to like want to really stack in the spot. But with that lower boundary out there and in Anaheim, like it definitely benefits those left-handed bats.
Yeah, it really does. And we've seen even a couple of right-handers go oppo, and it's helped out as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, definitely. I mean, it could be an interesting game stack here, but the problem is some of these bats are expensive.
Yeah, but then you can just like punt with cheap pitching options like Matz and McCarthy.
It's true. Oh, man, what a lineup that is.
GPP takedown with Steven Matz and Brandon McCarthy in your lineup.
Oh, man.
You can tweet that out to Brandon McCarthy, and he'll probably actually comment on it because the dude is, like I mentioned earlier, an excellent at the Twitter.
And right after he leaves the mound, too, he'll respond to you. Like, the man will probably not even wait till the game's over.
Probably not.
LA San Diego next here. Luis Perdomo taking on Kenta Maeda. Luis Perdomo, Brent. Luis Perdomo. Who do we got here?
I'm so tilted because Tyson Ross was scheduled and they pushed him back when Perdomo came off the suspension list. I don't really know why you would do that. Like, it just kind of messes up your pitching rotation. Like, Perdomo was only a couple days away from his next regularly scheduled start. So, like, I had written up the Dodgers against Tyson Ross because, like, even though, like, Tyson Ross has not been a total gas can this season, he still is a terrible pitcher. I guess the same thing goes for Perdomo. Like, his numbers don't scream that he's a gas can, but he's also not a guy that I particularly like as a pitcher. Like, he's an extreme ground ball guy, but the Dodgers could still get to him here. So I think the Dodgers are still probably my top stack on the slate.
I don't, I'm not necessarily worried here just because, like, the Seagers and Bellingers and Grandals, like, from the left side, solid uppercut swings. Like, I don't mind stacking them. Like, I'm not worried about that ground ball rate. A guy who doesn't miss a lot of bats, especially on the left side, 13% strikeout rate against lefties dating back to last year. I'm waiting for like a complete Dodgers breakout, and I think that actually could happen here.
Yeah, obviously, I think it starts with Cody Bellinger. You mentioned the struggles against lefties. He's only striking him out 13.4% of the time dating back to last season. Only a 24% fly ball rate, but I think Bellinger is a guy, him and his 467 ISO against sliders, I think this is a spot where Bellinger could go completely off. Matt Kemp is not a guy that I particularly want to target, but he's been solid against pitchers who toss the slider a decent amount. Yasiel Puig, Chris Taylor, guys that I think you can consider as well. And obviously Corey Seager eventually is going to have a big game. Did it come last night? I was just
No, it didn't. He had so many chances. He hit the ball hard, but we don't get points for hitting the ball hard.
No, we do not. So yeah, he's another guy you consider, and obviously Yasmani Grandal is still an excellent catcher option.
Yeah, Grandal 340 ISO off sinkers. That's pretty solid. All these guys, monster sinkers too. Like, it's sinker and slider for this guy. That's it.
Yeah.
So, I like those calls there. San Diego side. What about Kenta Maeda? I find myself, I'm just not a fan of like some of these Dodgers arms. Like, I know Ryu had a good start. I know this is the start where he's either going to strike out like 8+, or Dave Roberts is going to pull him in the fourth inning because he's allowed like 2 earned runs.
I think if you're paying up and you're skipping Garrett Cole, I think this is the spot. Just because obviously you're against a Padres offense that does strike out a fair amount against right-handed pitching. We're talking almost 27% to be exact. I hate these Dodgers pitchers not named Kershaw, just because they're so tilting. And when they're in great spots, they don't put up solid outings. Like, I think he's your best option, not named Garrett Cole, though.
Yeah, it's hard to agree, but I think I do agree because I mean it kind of probably comes down to like Carrasco and him is like the second option. I don't really feel super comfortable about either. But I definitely could see Maeda having a good start. I don't mind that price. Like 9-7 on DK is pretty fair. Should be in a good spot to pick up a win. Unless that game's close, then Jensen might blow for you. But other than that, like I don't know. If there's like four lefties in here, I'm a little bit concerned. But those lefties still do strike out a lot just because the upside might not completely be there if there's a ton of lefties.
Yeah, if they load up that lineup with lefties, I would be off of him a little bit, but at the same time, like there's still going to be some strikeout potential in that lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Frenchie Cordero's striking out like any less than 20% because it's like 40.
Yeah,
But
that guy strikes out a lot.
yeah, I don't hate like the lefty options as being contrarian though.
I don't mind Franchi. Like he's going to strike out a ton, but he also has a lot of power. Yeah, it's really hard to get excited about the Padres in this spot. Like Franchi, Eric Hosmer, Asuaje, and of course Freddie Galvis, who continues to just put up some sort of numbers. Like he's still a great cash game option, I think.
Yeah, like Hosmer's a decent like FanDuel option where you can roster two first basemen.
Yeah, eventually that contract's going to pay off for him.
Hey, he homered. I think he's homered back-to-back games when he's been healthy. But yeah, overall, Dodgers side much more playable here.
Yes, for sure.
Last game of the night, Houston Astros take on Seattle Mariners. Garrett Cole going up against Mike Leake. Garrett Cole definitely has been the best pitcher this season of the group going tonight. He's been phenomenal. The strikeout rates continue to just be sky high. We saw McCullers go out there, played really well. I mean, 7 innings, had 11 strikeouts. The option was there, but I didn't quite see it against this Mariners team. Garrett Cole has just been so good.
He's not throwing that fastball that he likes to hurl right down the middle that has absolutely no movement on it as much. He's relying a little bit more on his slider, his knuckle curve, and his kind of changeup, and that's really helped him. It's helped all of these Astros pitchers now that they're not relying on their fastball as much. And this is a Mariners team that if you look at some of these bats against like knuckle curves and against some of these sliders, like there's some strikeout potential in this lineup against the pitches that Garrett Cole kind of throws out there a decent amount.
Yeah, and you mentioned the secondary stuff. It's made his fastball much more sneaky, just because he's keeping hitters off balance. Like you mentioned, he's throwing it 7% less than 2017, but still 19% whiff rate on that fastball, 25% hard contact rate. You mentioned the curveball's been kind of a moneymaker, 37% whiff rate on the curve, 110 WOBA people have off of it. So he also has a 52% strikeout rate against lefties.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to continue. Like I think we can safely say there's regression coming at some point for Garrett Cole.
But it is just something to note. Like obviously, yes, 50% is an absurd number. I would expect it to kind of maybe finish around 25, maybe if something holds come the end of the year. But it is something notable given that Mariners have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lefties in that lineup. It does give me a little bit more confidence.
Yeah. It kind of does. Like now that we've kind of talked about it, like I think Garrett Cole is probably your highest upside arm, and this dude continues to just produce. So like, and you have in theory what should be one of the best offenses in baseball, backing you up. I'm laughing because Jason's like rolling his eyes over here. So like he should have run support in this spot.
He should. Yes, he should. Let's go over to these Houston bats. I'm not interested in Mike Leake at all. I'm assuming you're not either.
I'm not, but at the same time, like I don't really want to stack Houston against him. Like Mike Leake is a guy who has just been like a serviceable like innings eater. Not really. I mean, he's given up 2 earned runs, 3 earned runs across his first 3 starts. He's just not giving up a bunch of like earned runs, but he's also not like shutting offenses down. So these Astros are like not hitting the ball very well right now, and they're striking out a decent amount. So like I'm still taking a wait and see approach. Like I will be a day late rostering Astros at this point.
Yeah, I think they're kind of more just like one-offs. If I can get one of them in, like if they're a last guy in, I'll be excited about it at their prices. But I think for me, like I don't mind taking like a Josh Reddick or like a Marwin Gonzalez if he cracks the lineup. Those would probably be the two guys I look at a little bit more. Although Correa is really interesting.
Correa is probably the guy that I do have the most interest in, or like a Marwin. That'd be about it for me.
Yeah, because like Correa really saw numbers against sinkers. Some of these other guys, same with Marwin too. 372 with 228 ISO dating back to last year.
Yeah, that's kind of like their profile like matches up well with what Leak throws out there. And I'm looking right now. Have they faced? How many times have they faced him?
Not a lot. None of these guys really have any numbers against them.
Yeah, none of these guys really have much of anything.
Like Carlos Correa and Springer haven't even faced him.
Yeah, your four guys that have actually faced him: Reddick, McCann, Gaddis, and Altuve. And none of these guys have solid numbers against him, but it's like 4 at bats.
Yeah. So, hey, Altuve's 5 for 16. A couple extra base hits.
There you go.
So, yeah. Did you have anyone on Seattle that you had any interest in? We didn't really touch. I don't. I mean, unless you want to fire off like contrarian Robbie Cano or Seager or something.
Yeah, but at that point, like I think you're just being contrarian for the sake of like being contrarian, and it's probably not a great option. Like, yeah, like maybe a D Gordon or something, but that'd be about it.
Yeah, if you're playing 1-game slates, go for it.
Yeah, if you're playing 1-game slate and that's the game that you're targeting, you kind of have to.
Oh, man. Home run calls here tonight. We were talking yesterday about how we don't even remember who we called the day after.
Yeah, I know I called Springer yesterday, and that's the only one that I can remember, and he did not.
Olsen was your other one.
Oh yeah,
I think I'm better at remembering yours than remembering mine. I don't usually take mine.
I don't remember who you called, so.
I don't either. I think I said Mookie Betts 3 homers, but I could be wrong.
That I will say this, that does not sound familiar to me.
Okay, that's fair. We can go with the tape.
I'll let you go first because I have no. Yeah.
I'm going to go Michael Conforto. Contrarian, I am going to go Calso.
Let me go, I guess, Cody Bellinger and Luis Valbuena.
Ooh, I like it. I was going to see if you said like Devers or JBJ or something.
I thought about it.
So, that's it for us. You can enter DaveFantasyCafe.com. Check out Brent's stacking article, my pitching article, cheat sheets up as well. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Good luck tonight.